Good morning, everyone. So, today's topic is going to be biomechanics of scapulohumeral rhythm. So, when we are talking about biomechanics of scapulohumeral rhythm, the term when scapulohumeral rhythm comes to our brain, we think that it's a rhythmic motion between scapula and humerus. Ideally, scapulohumeral rhythm is nothing but a rhythmic coordinated movement of all the four joints occurring at all the four joints forming a shoulder complex, that is at scapulothoracic, glenohumeral, sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular joints. So coming to the contents, normal scapulohumeral rhythm, sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular motion during arm trunk elevation, glenohumeral and scapulothoracic force couples and obligate translation. Objective of the class is nothing but to understand the biomechanics of scapulohumeral rhythm. As I already discussed, scapulohumeral rhythm is nothing but the coordinated motion of scapula and humerus at all four joints, that is your scapulothoracic, glenohumeral, sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular joint forming a shoulder complex during your shoulder movement. Now coming to why this rhythm is needed is because it distributes the motion at all four joints during your shoulder movement. Second one, it maintains your glenoid fossa in congruency with the humeral head, thus decreasing your shear force. That is, the main action of rotator cuff muscle is nothing but to centralize the humeral head during movement, that is, providing dynamic stability. In the absence of rotator cuff, the humeral head might get dislocated. Hence, scapulohumeral rhythm maintains the glenoid fossa in optimal congruency with the humeral head, thus decreasing the shear force. Third point is it maintains good length tension relationship and reduces active insufficiency of deltoid. Now, when we tell any rhythm or any movement, there are some numbers playing within. So, scapulohumeral rhythm is equal to 2 is to 1, which is equal to for every 2 degree of glenohumeral joint motion, there is to 1 degree of scapulothoracic motion. Now, constituting formula of scapulothoracic movement is equal to 30 degree of clavicular elevation plus 30 degree of clavicular upward rotation. Now we'll look into how does clavicle elevate and upwardly rotate during your scapular or glenohumeral movement. There's something called as conoid part of coracoclavicular ligament, which is attached from the scapula to the clavicle, that is inferior surface of the clavicle. When your scapula rotates upwardly, the clavicle has to lift upward and upwardly rotate in order to cause the smooth movement. That is a part of your scapulohumeral rhythm. Now we'll look into how this happens. Sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular motion during arm trunk elevation. When the scapula rotates upwards, there must be concomitant elevation of the clavicle with its upward rotation. Without the movement of the clavicle, the motion of glenohumeral joint is incomplete as it forms a part of the complex. So total scapular upward rotation is 60 degree and total clavicular elevation is approximately 40 degree. As the scapula is pulled away, that is rotated upwardly, the conoid part of the coracoclavicular ligament tightens up, which is attached to the inferior surface of the clavicle. This tightening up leads to pull of the clavicle, which further lifts the clavicle upwards. So hence you all people understood that how the clavicle is lifted upward, that is elevated and upwardly rotated when your shoulder joint is moving. So coming to the force couples. So basically, dealing with the shoulder complex, there are two force couples, that is your scapulothoracic force couples and glenohumeral force couples. Always remember, when we are talking about force couples at a particular joint, the muscle should act only at that joint. So when we are dealing with scapulothoracic, the muscles are related to the scapulothoracic joint. And when we are dealing with glenohumeral joint, the muscles are related to your glenohumeral joint. Coming to the scapulothoracic joint. So majorly when you are abducting or flexing your shoulder joint, the upper rotation of the scapula is a must. Muscles causing upward rotation of the scapula are your trapezius and your serratus anterior. Dividing the upward rotation of the scapula concomitant to the abduction of the glenohumeral joint into two parts, that is your 30 to 90 degree and 90 to 150 degree. So divide it into two parts. For 30 to 90 degree, upper and middle trapezius are activating along with your lower digitation of your serratus anterior. And when 90 to 150 degree of abduction is happening, lower fibers of trapezius and upper digitation of serratus anterior are a must activating muscle fiber to cause the upward rotation at the scapula. The only difference between these two are the point axis of rotation of the upward rotation of the scapula. When 30 to 90 degree of abduction is happening, the axis of rotation is located at the superior angle of the scapula. And when 90 to 150 degree rotation abduction is happening, the upward rotation axis of rotation is located at your AC joint, that is your acromioclavicular joint. Now looking into the theory depth, for 30 to 90 degree of abduction powered by upper trapezius and lower digitation of serratus anterior, look at the diagram. When upper trapezius is pulling the circle in one direction to complete the rotation of the scapula, lower serratus anterior has to activate. Exactly in the for further upper rotation of the scapula, in the same way, lower traps and upper digitation of serratus anterior has to activate for 90 to 150 degree of abduction of the glenohumeral joint. Look into the image. When this is nothing but your glenohumeral joint force couple. Here we are dealing with your deltoid versus rotator cuff muscle. In scapulothoracic force couple, we dealt with upper and middle fibers of trapezius along with lower digitation of serratus anterior and lower fibers of trapezius along with upper digitation of serratus anterior, and the main motion was upward rotation of the scapula. In glenohumeral joint, we are dealing with deltoid versus rotator cuff, and the main motion is to centralize the humeral head within the glenoid fossa. Imagine that in the absence of rotator cuff, what is going to happen to your humeral head? Deltoid being the multiaxial bulkiest muscle of the shoulder complex, it is going to pull the humeral head superiorly, thus leading to superior dislocation. This occurs in the absence of your rotator cuff. The main action of your rotator cuff is dynamically stabilization of your humeral head centralized within the glenoid fossa. Thus, there is maintenance of the humeral head within the centralized within the glenoid fossa in the presence of rotator cuff against deltoid. Look into the diagram. This diagram states that the deltoid has 45% of superior compressive force in the rest position, whereas supraspinatus has 65% and the rest all have inferior direction compressive forces. And the deltoid changes its amount of the forces as it is aligned with the scapula. Hence, at 90 degree of abduction, maximum compressive force is provided by the deltoid. Coming to the last part of the lecture, that is nothing but your capsular obligate translation. Splitting the term capsular obligate translation, something happens to the capsular area of the shoulder joint which leads to obligate, nothing but opposite translation of the humeral head. For example, when you have trauma on the posterior aspect of the capsule, it leads to opposite translation of the humeral head in the anterior direction. So when you are treating, for example, a case adhesive capsulitis, that is posterior tightening of the capsule of the shoulder joint, you need not only release the posterior tightened capsule by stretching it, you have to also mobilize the humeral head posteriorly back to its normal. This is nothing but your capsular obligate translation. So this concludes your lecture. By summary, normal scapulohumeral rhythm, that is the rhythmic motion of all four joints constituting the shoulder complex to cause the shoulder movement in a rhythmic and smooth fashion. Biomechanics of scapulohumeral rhythm, that is the clavicular upward rotation and elevation as sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular joint, scapulothoracic and glenohumeral joint force couples, that is one for your scapular upward rotation and one to centralize your humeral head, one more rotator cuff vectors at rest and at 90 degree of abduction, and capsular obligate translation. This is the end of your lecture. Thank you.